kids podcast.
You can go slow.
A kids podcast about.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm the head of audio at A Kids Co. We love having your voices on our shows, and we also love sharing our books with the world. So today I'm inviting you to share your voice. And if your voice ends up on one of our future shows, I'd like to send you some books as thanks. Deal? Deal. Write to me at listen@akidsco.com or record me a message and email it to me with your grown-up's permission, of course. You can share a cool fact you know. You can tell us about a memory with strong emotions you remember. You can ask questions about the topics of our books. That's listen@akidsco.com. And now, on with the show. A quick note. This episode is about a topic that might be sensitive to young listeners. The content is appropriate for listeners ages 5 and up and does not include explicit or graphic language, but it's probably best to listen to this episode with a trusted adult in case you have questions. Questions are always a good thing to have. If you or someone you know is suffering from suicidal thoughts and live in the United States, please reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by chat or by calling 1-800-273-8255. You may also visit their website at suicidepreventionlifeline.org to find help in Spanish or TTY for deaf, hard of hearing, and for more accessibility options, information, and resources. What is suicide?
Suicide is when you try to kill yourself on purpose.
Suicide is when someone takes their own life. Suicide is as simple as ending your own life. It's sometimes a way for people to escape pain or suffering, but it's absolutely not the answer. You should definitely always talk to a trusted adult if you ever are feeling that sadness when it comes to thinking about ending your own life.
Welcome to A Kid's Book About, the podcast. I'm Matthew. I'm a teacher, a librarian, and I'm your host. The voices you heard at the top of our show were from Christina and Angela. Each week we talk about the big things going on in your world with a different author from our A Kid's Book About series.
Hi, my name is Angela Frazier. I'm the author of A Kid's Book About Suicide. I'm also the founder of a nonprofit, Sisters in Public Health. We offer scholarships to college students.
Hello, dear listeners. You are in very, very good hands for today's topic. I also know that this might not be a topic you've discussed at home or at school before. And that may mean that the topic is new, but it may also mean that the entire word is new. Angela begins A Kid's Book About Suicide by sharing, quote, "Suicide is when someone dies by taking their own life. It's not something that happened to them or that someone did to them. They did it to themselves." End quote.
There are two ways that I explain why suicide occurs. One of those being some risk factors in regards to suicide, and then also kind of some warning signs. So risk factors may be childhood abuse. It could be availability of a gun. Kids often experience traumatic events such as bullying. That's another risk factor there. And then warning signs, a few of those are things to look out for, right? So a change in one of your friends' eating or sleeping patterns. Maybe they're withdrawing from you, your friend group, or even the family members that they normally would hang around, right? And then also some things to think about is rebellious or violent behavior, and then neglect of appearance. If they're someone who normally really upkeeps themselves, something to really look at is, if there is that neglect of physical appearance there.
The end result of suicide is death. We will talk a good deal in this conversation about suicide prevention, which means stopping the person from taking an action that will cause their death. But I want to speak to you in clear terms so that our words are understood.
Suicide cannot be reversed. Suicide is a final act, this is the exact reason why you should never do that. It leaves so many people with questions and hurt after you are gone. And if you're having negative thoughts, it's just so very important to talk to a teacher, a parent, an aunt, just really any trusted adult in your life.
There are many, many people affected when someone dies by suicide.
Suicide affects everyone who is left here on this earth. I say that because I have lost someone to suicide. I lost my mother to suicide when I was 24 years old. And although I was an adult at the time, it felt the same as I imagine if a kid would lose their parent to suicide. We want our parents here forever. It truly just affects anyone and everyone left here after you.
You may not know someone who has died to suicide. I honestly hope you never do. But being aware that suicides occur, that's something I really respect you for taking on. So, let's take a minute to look inward. How does thinking about suicide or victims of suicide make you feel? You can turn and share with a trusted grown-up or sibling or friend. You can share aloud with me or share with yourself. You can also just reflect and listen to others as they share.
Suicide makes me feel like I'm not good enough for this world and that people would be better off without me here.
You know, it makes me feel honestly sad because I know that there is such an eternal pain that nobody else can really truly understand. You know, I remember in the beginning, I used to have a lot of frustration and anger towards my mom because how could you? That's how I felt. But as I have dug deep within the mental health community, I've learned that someone who takes their own life they're really suffering. There's a lot of pain associated there. Again, not the route to go, but I have forgiven her for that act.
Before we go to break, a reminder about how to get help for yourself or for a loved one who is struggling with suicidal thoughts.
You can get help, and you should reach out for help. There's always help available. You know, again, I recommend talking to a trusted adult in your life, a trusted friend. But if there is someone who is really struggling with suicidal thoughts, there is a national helpline available, and that is 1-800-273-8255.
We'll be back with Angela Frazier, including the relationship between mental health and suicide, when we return.
Hi, I'm Jonah. My dad makes podcasts at a Kids Co. Looking for an ad-free podcast experience? Find our shows on Apple Podcasts and then click on subscription. You get ad-free listening, access to episodes before anyone else, and you can listen to exclusive bonus episodes and podcasts like our A Kid's Mindful Moment, a collection of meditations made for kids at home or in school. Plus, your first 3 days of listening are absolutely free. Just visit any of our A Kids Podcast About shows on Apple Podcasts and click the Try Free Subscription button. Happy listening!
Welcome back to A Kid's Book About, the podcast. On today's episode, we're talking about suicide with A Kid's Book About author Angela Frazier. Suicide is referred to in lots of different ways. Sometimes these words or phrases are an attempt to avoid use of the word suicide, or to say something that feels less harsh or difficult. These are called euphemisms. A euphemism is a milder or less harsh, less direct way of saying something. Instead of saying the word suicide, one might say the person, quote, ended it all, or took the easy way out, or died by their own hand. As with many sensitive topics, the language we use when referring to the topic has value in how what we're trying to say is conveyed.
I don't mind saying suicide, but I don't say committed. I don't say committed suicide because it sounds like it's a crime. The word committed very much, is like, someone committed robbery, they committed a murder. Suicide is an act against yourself, and it puts a crime there instead of what it truly is. And it's a mental illness. It's a health issue. And so I really am cautious about my words when I talk about suicide. So someone took their own life, someone died by suicide, you'll hear me say that. But I do not use committed. And a lot of people who are in this world of mental health advocacy do not use the word committed. It just takes a little learning and education. You don't know what you don't know.
12-year-old listener Christina shares this question.
A question I have about suicide is, how can I prevent those thoughts of happening?
Good question, Christina. Prevention is so super important. So I'm glad you asked. How could you prevent that? And a couple things I think about. So if you're someone who prays, maybe you don't pray currently, but you can always start praying. You can write and say positive affirmations out loud. It's really important to speak positivity over your life. And even when I have those negative thoughts, I just say, nope, not today. So immediately trying to stop yourself from going down that negative path, I would say. But know that you also aren't alone in those thoughts. Many people experience this, but just never act on it. But we all have thoughts. We have hard days and hard moments, experience different things in our life that make us think negative about the world or about ourselves. But I just say, remember that you are just loved by so many people, and do not let your mind trick you into thinking anything less.
Sometimes our thoughts can be really loud and overpowering. A kid's book about suicide has a number of spreads where just a single phrase is written across the pages, such as, "It's not your fault. Your life is worth living. You are here for a reason, and you are not alone." Each word, of course, is here for a reason, too.
Yes, it is. It is so common for our minds to go down those rabbit holes. It just really is so important to know the truth about yourself. My therapist recently just challenged me to write out the narrative for my life, write out the truth, and make sure you do that in a good positive space, where you can write down, Angela's smart, and Angela's educated, and Angela's an author, and just all these really awesome things, because a lot of times we just forget. Life moves so fast. And when you're an adult like myself, you have a resume, and we oftentimes just kind of forget what all has led up to where we are today in life. And we need those reminders. And sometimes we just don't see it clear. If you can't clearly see it, ask the people in your life that love you. If I did a survey, with my friends and family, I know there would be glowing reviews about me. But sometimes we just forget. Sometimes we don't believe it at times, but writing it down and reading it in those moments, it really is helpful.
Angela comes to a kid's book about by way of a friend and fellow author.
Yes. My goodness. So my previous boss, Rebecca Alexander, did a kid's book about body image. And so it was just as simple as that. One day we were talking, and I wasn't even thinking, well, I've always thought about being an author, but we were just chatting in general. And she just was saying how she was just getting ready to launch hers, and she actually sent it to me before it was published. The manuscript and stuff like that were really close. So she sent that my way, and I was like, oh, I just love this. And she said, you know what? I just need to connect you and Jelani, because you actually should be doing the suicide book. And I was like, well, that's a pretty like tough topic. And, him and, his organization will have to be about some challenging books. And at the time, I didn't know that they were already, in the game with doing challenging books. And Jelani was game. Immediately, we got on a phone call. I got to chat to him. The organization is so big now, he probably has somebody else who they chat with now, but I got to chat with Jelani. And also got to sit down and write it with him and one other person. And it was such an awesome experience. Yeah, it was just amazing, and it has continued to be amazing. Rebecca also is the person who, so I worked with her. She was my boss. I lost my mom at the time I was working under her. And when there was an opportunity to name the shelter, there's 5 homes named in honor of my mom, Rebecca called me and she said, hey, we have shelters that we're going to be naming soon, and we're opening them up under Bradley Angle. And she actually, she's the one who proposed naming those shelters after my mom. And now I'm literally the president of this organization.
What a terrific full circle connection. Before we let Angela go, I want to come back to what actions we, each of us, can take if we know that someone is struggling with thoughts of suicide, or if we ourselves are struggling with thoughts of suicide. Here's Angela.
So if someone is, first off, where I always tell people that you are no one's counselor or therapist. What I mean by that is you are to offer resources. So like the hotline mentioned, the national hotline, 1-800-273-8255. Please do recommend that. Also, there's community support. So there is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and also the National Alliance for Mental Illness. But if someone's having a bad day, and you can kind of gauge typically if somebody more is in crisis and they're talking about the plans and they have the means to take their own life, that's a 911 situation. But if someone is they're going through a tough time, and we all will at certain times, I just encourage you to listen, let them know that they're not alone, and also encourage them to just take time and treat themselves. I think we move so fast through life that sometimes we just forget, like, what does it mean to just treat Angela? And, treating Angela it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be a bubble bath, take it back to your childhood. You can, my goodness, do something fun get your nails done, go to the movies, with friends, things like that. It doesn't have to be expensive, but just reminding them that, treat yourself. Self-care is not selfish.
Thank you to Angela Frazier, author of a kid's book about suicide, for joining us today. And thanks to our very special kid voices for contributing to this episode.
My name is Christina. I am 12 years old, and my favorite thing is anime and Roblox.
Want to be on a future episode of A Kid's Book About the podcast? Write to us or record a message and email us at listen@akidsco.com. A Kid's Book About the podcast is written, edited, and produced by me, Matthew Winner, with help from Chad Michael Snavely and the team at Sound On Studios. Our executive producer is Jelani Memory, and this show was brought to you by A Kid's Podcast About. Follow the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are found, and check out other podcasts made for kids just like you by visiting akidsco.com. Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm the head of audio at A Kids Co, and I also host A Kid's Book About the podcast, and worth noting, I just wanted to say thanks. Thanks for listening to our shows in your classroom or in your bedroom, over breakfast or over dinner, on your drive or on your downtime. No matter what you do between this listen and the next time you tune in, thanks. You're awesome. And it's because of kids like you that we get to make cool stuff like this. See ya.